I think at one point we could have considered this one a play-in game, but it's almost become a play-out game when talking about Notre Dame traveling to Stanford to take on the Cardinal. Both teams in the top 9 of the college football playoff rankings, but possibly needing some help. We bring in Nick Dempsey of Rule of Tree to help us sort things out. Nick, happy Thanksgiving. Thanks so much for joining us.
Of course. Happy Thanksgiving to you and everybody at home.
Exactly. So Saturday night, Stanford Notre Dame. This has turned into a rivalry, cross country, and a little bit more on the line this time around. Stanford with that second loss, but possibly not completely out of the college football playoff. Of course, this does not count toward the conference standing. So I think there's tons of conjecture that we could go through in regards to what needs to happen elsewhere for Stanford in particular. For Notre Dame, with just the one loss, this continues to beef up the record, although the Irish at one point fourth in the college football rankings, now back to 6. I don't think we need to worry about incentive in this one.
No, I think if you're not motivated and ready to play this game for either team, then I'm just going to go out on a limb and say you probably don't enjoy playing football very much. I think that's pretty much the only assumption you can make at that point.
Well, there's plenty of players on both sides that haven't enjoyed playing football much the past several weeks or months because they've gotten hurt. So you mentioned before we came on, Ronnie Harris, top DB for Stanford, up in the air, his status.
Yeah, Coach Saul said on Tuesday at his press conference it's probably about 50-50. They're going to try to go. He's able to like run in straight lines as far as making cuts. It's a little difficult for him, and that's going to be a problem because Notre Dame has an explosive passing attack, and they've got one of the best receivers in the country in Will Fuller. And we saw against in the Cal game with that banged up secondary for Stanford can be picked apart. So that could be a huge situation for them to deal with.
Yeah, you've got William Fuller, and Brian Kelly has also worked the professional bloodlines pretty well when talking about David Robinson's kid and Torrey Hunter's kid. So he's got Major League Baseball and the NBA covered, and those kids are pretty good players as well. But William Fuller, we will see him prominent in the NFL draft in April. An
Yeah.
exceptional player, and Notre Dame ravaged with injuries, and it's taken a toll on their play, but the results have still turned into W's at the final gun.
Yeah, you got to tip your hat to this Notre Dame team. I mean, Deshaun Kaiser, what, 6 months ago, was the third string quarterback for this team. So they've lost starting quarterbacks, starting running backs, starting tight ends. They just lost, I believe, one of their star defensive backs on defense. They're kind of running out of guys, but they keep winning. You really got to tip your hat. But I just want to make a point about bloodlines. I would love to see like the total net worth of this crowd because you talk about celebrity parents. You mentioned David Robertson, Torrey Hunter, Ed McCaffrey's in there, Barry Sanders. And I believe, if I read correctly, John Bon Jovi's son is a walk-on at Notre Dame. So, throw him in there too. That's got to make for an interesting parents' weekend at Notre Dame, I'd have to say.
That one I didn't know. Now, if we were strictly going with net worth, I'm going to go in the Bon Jovi camp thinking that he's got everybody else trumped. That's my
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, I would say so. He's been doing it for a while now, quite a
And
while.
And Nick, I'm also guessing that if Stanford can at least keep Notre Dame playmakers in front of them and make them move the length of the field at 5 and 6 and 8 yards a pop and wait for the mistake, for the big sack,
Hmm.
for the big play to stop a drive, that's the best way to go, rather than Notre Dame seems to operate its best. Many offenses do, but I think even more so Notre Dame when they can hit on the aforementioned big play.
Yeah, they Notre Dame's very boom and bust. Their offense turns the ball over quite a bit, but then they can also score from anywhere on the field sometimes. So keep everything in front of you. Try to keep the ball from getting into the air if you're on defense for Stanford. And then when the turnover happens, you've got to capitalize on it. And that actually fits Stanford's strengths pretty well because they like to shorten the game, minimize the number of possessions for each team. If you're only going to get 8 to 12 possessions and you turn the ball over three of those, it's going to be very tough to beat this Stanford team. But we saw Notre Dame against Clemson. We thought that was going to be a blowout going away, and then Notre Dame clawed their way back into it in a hurricane. So you gotta beat this team for 60 full minutes, possibly longer if it goes to overtime.
Yeah, it's the classic question with Notre Dame. Are they playing down to their opponents, or are they really just scuffling by? And now that they hit a big opponent, are some of these flaws going to come to the surface? Now, if we flip, Nick, to the other side of the football, Kevin Hogan, Christian McCaffrey and company going against what's touted as one of the better front sevens in college football for Notre Dame. So that should be an interesting challenge as well.
Notre Dame loves to bring pressure. They just love, love, love to blitz. The problem is that can cause a lot of havoc. But the problem is their secondary. If you get a playmaker into the second level with the ball, they can get torched pretty easily. We've seen some speedy guys just get past that front seven and then score touchdowns. We've seen quarterback sneaks burn them. We've seen screen passes and short out routes burn them. But we've also seen Kevin Hogan kind of struggle and panic a little bit when they're being pressured. He didn't look very sharp against Washington State. Obviously, didn't look sharp against Oregon. So it's going to come down to being able to adapt and adjust to that pressure because it is coming. You can pretty much count on that from Notre Dame.
Now, Nick, if David Shaw wanted to play fair, he would say, okay, I got to take Ronnie Harris out of the game, even if he's ready to go physically, because Notre Dame's lost its best corner in Kavari Russell. He was injured probably for the remainder of the season against Boston College. He's considered one of the better cover corners in college football, and he's a guy that comes up and plays run support as well. And we've seen that be a critical portion of Stanford's new offense, with Kevin Hogan actually breaking contain and picking up some huge plays with his feet.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if Notre Dame actually dedicates a guy to spy Kevin Hogan because they know he can run, he can move the ball. It's not their first choice. Obviously, if you have Christian McCaffrey, it's not your first choice, but he can run with the ball. So it'll be interesting to see if they come out of the gate right away and spy Hogan, which will help reduce the pressure and open up things for other players. Or if they're going to go with their normal game plan, bring the house, and then see if, say, a delayed QB sneak from Hogan will burn them, and then they have to adjust. But there's going to be a lot of chess pieces moving, especially in the early going, because there's a lot of choices and countermeasures each team can take in this matchup.
Stanford's risen to a 4-point favorite in this game, so Vegas really likes the Cardinal at home. Do the 3-point translation of home and away, and they consider it a fairly even matchup, but with Stanford with a slight edge if it was a neutral site game. I don't know if you're ready to pull the trigger. I'm not. I'm going to come out with my picks tomorrow or later tonight, and I'm really going to have to simmer on this one. I'm probably leaning Stanford, but I'm not going to pull the trigger. Don't know if you're willing to do that for us, Nick.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and pull the trigger. You've got fewer injuries, more experience, and the home team almost overwhelmingly wins this game as of late. Also, I don't believe Brian Kelly has won in Palo Alto in his, what has he been there, 6-7 years now. So I think they've got all of those advantages going for them. The reason this is hard to predict, again, is because Notre Dame is very boom or bust. They come out and they struggle with teams like Massachusetts, where they were, I think, up by like 1 score at halftime. And then they come out against USC and they go up by 3 scores before letting USC back. It's just it's tough to predict them. And if you just look at it on paper, to lose this many players, you would think, oh yeah, they're down to the 3rd string running back, 3rd string quarterback, they're without their tight end and all these other folks. On paper, yeah, you would say absolutely Stanford's going to win, but they've been dealing with these injuries all season and still keep winning games. So I can see why people are a little uncertain, but I think most things line up that Stanford should probably win. It might not be pretty, but I think they'll win.
And to both coaches' credit and the program's credit for each side, they're not afraid to play anyone. So in a college football landscape where we're finally seeing some teams finally play somebody in November or 2 or 3 times, these are teams that go out and schedule. Notre Dame's traditionally done that. Even some of the programs that they've played this year that are down right now are usually good. And for Stanford, in addition to the rugged Pac-12, they go out and they take on Notre Dame. They take on a Northwestern team that's 9-2, and they take on a Central Florida team that's awful right now. But when they scheduled them, one of the better group of 5 teams. So Stanford, certainly loads up the non-conference schedule as well. So both of these teams play difficult schedules, and this is just another rung on the ladder.
Yeah, this is going to be an exciting one, and this is also, and I'll say this for Notre Dame, this is their last chance, and it's a heck of an opportunity to make a statement if you're trying to get into the playoffs. But this is their last chance. They're going to be sitting around on conference championship weekend when everybody else is playing. But yeah, I love it. These teams actually first played about 90 years ago. I think 1925 was the first time they played, but this didn't really become a rivalry till like the late 80s, early 90s. So it's one of the oldest and sort of one of the newest rivalries in college football. It's very interesting, but it should be a heck of a game.
All right, Nick Dempsey from Rule of Tree minus the H. I love the catchy SB Nation website nicknames. So that's the Stanford site. Nick Dempsey helping us break it down. Stanford Notre Dame should be a great one. Thanks, Nick.
Of course, anytime.